Welcome to the Disturbance, hosted by Dave DeVaugh.
Coming up on the Daily Disturbance, we take a quick look at Tom Brady. And I'll explain to you why people are finally realizing that Tom Brady has officially grown old. Plus, Jimmy Butler does the unthinkable. He forces Los Angeles Laker fans to have to watch another basketball game in the bubble on Sunday night as Game 6 of your National Basketball Association Championship will tip off on Sunday night, and it's Jimmy Butler's fault. I've got all of that and a whole lot more coming up on the big show today. I'm Dave DeVaugh. You have tuned into the Daily Disturbance. This is episode number 1. That's right, it's our very first episode ever. Now, we're going to be doing Daily Disturbances basically 6 days a week. These shows are going to last 10 to 15 minutes in length, so they won't be too long. You know, you'll still have time to get out to Bed Bath & Beyond with your spouse. That being said, please, this is supposed to be interactive, so leave us comments on the YouTube channel. Okay, hit us up on our Mighty Rip Twitter account or on our big mighty.rip website when you have a chance. Okay, so now Tom Brady, let's get into it. Because Tom Brady has grown old. But I've known Tom Brady has been growing old for quite some time. It wasn't just the start of this year. It wasn't last year. It was a couple years ago. You could start to see Tom Brady starting to grow old. Now, what does that mean, growing old, for a quarterback who was the GOAT in the National Football League? Well, what that basically means is he needs more time to process things. He needs more time to get things done. Now, on Thursday Night Football, as we all saw, he forgot that it was 4th down at the end of the game. And let's face it, those things happen. They happen to you and me in every portion of our lives. Occasionally, you forget something. It just happens. But that's not what makes Tom Brady old. That's just one of the symptoms, but that's not really what makes him old at this point as a quarterback in the National Football League. What surprisingly makes Tom Brady old at this point is that he's rushing things. If you watch him and you go back and you watch Thursday night's game, you will see that Tom Brady's he's literally trying to throw that football as hard as he can possibly throw it. He has thrown the touch, if you will, off of the football. That's why he kept airmailing passes over his wide receivers that he, like you and me, had never heard of before he got to Tampa. Look, there's no doubt that Tampa's got a bunch of injuries, and I understand that. But at the end of the day, when you're Tom Brady, you need more time to get things done. Look, I don't know about you, but when you were 18 years old and you had to get ready to go to work or you had to get ready to go to school, you could basically pull it off in 5 minutes. You know, you roll out of bed and you're good to go. When you turned 25, things took a little longer. For some of you, you were up to 15 minutes. When you were 35, you were now requiring a whopping 45 minutes in the morning to get ready. And when you hit that ripe old age of 50, you're looking at literally a whole hour to get ready for work in the morning. But that's okay because you didn't get any sleep anyways. So Tom Brady has definitely grown old. He needs more time to process things. And at this point and at this stage of his career, what that means is he needs a really strong offensive line. An offensive line that's not going to break down as much as this Tampa Bay Buccaneer offensive line has been breaking down. Holes should be the nickname of this offensive line in Tampa. They're not nearly as good as the Joe Burrow trauma center offensive line that he's dealing with in Cincinnati. Like what I said on a different podcast a couple weeks ago about Joe Burrow was that Joe Burrow is going to end up in a trauma center because that offensive line is so bad and you can only take so many hits, and that the local Cincinnati hospitals have got a trauma center and a room waiting for Joe Burrow because they are going to literally get that poor kid killed. In Tampa, things are a little bit better than that, but there's still a lot of holes with that offensive line. So Tom's not getting the kind of time he needs to make adjustments. So he's throwing the ball extra hard every single time. Look, at the end of that game, when they had like a minute, it was a minute and 5 seconds to go down the field. I thought, old Tom Brady, no problem. I thought current Aaron Rodgers, no problem. I thought Tom Brady with this offensive line, the way they played in this game, we've got a problem, Houston. We absolutely have a problem. And I'm not just talking about Bill O'Brien getting fired. We have a problem. So Tom Brady has issues with his offensive line. Now, I'm not saying Tampa's terrible. Tampa's got a really solid defense that matches up well against about 70% of the teams in the National Football League. They'll be okay in Tampa this year. Look, Bruce Arians, yes, historically, his workday ends around 5 p.m. because at 5 p.m., he can get into those local 4- and 5-star restaurants and order out and bring that food home and start cocktail hour. So that's what you do in Tampa. Look, Tom Brady moved to a community in Tampa where the early bird dinners start at 3:30. At 5 o'clock, most people have already eaten dinner. They're on their second Manhattan at that point, and they're 3 or 4 episodes away from the Golden Girls before they fall asleep for the night. That is a community that Tom Brady has moved into in Tampa. Oh, by the way, he's buying a new house there. The rumor was that it was going to cost about $7.5 million. Now, I host another podcast called the Gods of Odds podcast with a guy with Brad Hoyseth in Southern California. I can tell you right now that house in Southern California would cost probably $20 million. So Tom and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be fine. They'll figure this out. They've got sort of a weak schedule. They'll win 8-9 games. They'll get into the playoffs. Super Bowl, that's a whole other story. Not seeing it with this particular offensive line at this juncture. All right. And our second story of the day on our very first episode ever of the Daily Disturbance is Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat. Now, you got to give it to Jimmy Butler. I'm not going to do one of those whole stats things. He had a triple-double. He scored, 35 points, and and LeBron scored 40, and you can tell, why a team won because one team had more rebounds than the other. Nah, we're not going to do that here. We're going to talk about Jimmy Butler because he's a gamer. And there's really only a handful of basketball players in the National Basketball Association that are I would actually define them as gamers. These are guys that when things are on the line, they are going to leave it all out on the court no matter what. Now, there's a lot of gamers in the NBA who don't have the skills to back it up. So they can leave it all on the court, but it's not going to matter because they're not good enough. Jimmy Butler has worked his way into one of the best basketball players in the National Basketball Association, top 10, top 15 player in the NBA, and he's got a lot of heart. And you put him into a situation that he's currently inside the bubble in the National Basketball Association Championship with Pat Riley in the stands. One of 50 people in the stands is Pat Riley watching the game. Jimmy Butler is going to give it everything that he can possibly give in order for the Miami Heat to win a game. So that's exactly what happened in Game 5. He literally would not go quietly into the Los Angeles Laker night. He refused to allow the Lakers to start planning that virtual parade that they're going to have in Los Angeles after they win Game 6 or Game 7 of the NBA championship. So Butler's a total gamer. Duncan had a great game, scored 26 points. Tyler Hero was a little disappointing. Let's just say that. 2 disappointing pieces. Tyler, I know he's young, 12 points, but in order for the Miami Heat to actually force a Game 7, Tyler Hero's going to need to score at least 20. I'm telling you right now, if Miami wins Game 6, look at the box score, you will see Tyler Hero had 20, at least 20, and you will see the same thing out of Duncan Robinson. That's your leading indicator heading into Game 6, what you should be looking for if you want to know whether or not the Miami Heat are actually going to have a chance of beating the Lakers. Now, look, the Lakers have to be embarrassed. They were wearing their Kobe Bryant jerseys. They were, AD was wearing some special Kobe basketball shoes. Like, they were ready for this thing to be over. Disappointed? Absolutely. Are they going to turn around and be absolutely fired up and destroy the Miami Heat in Game 6? Once again, not if Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero show up, and if Jimmy has enough left in the tank to give us something similar to the performance that he delivered in game number 5. One last note for the Miami Heat, if they're going to win, if they're going to have any chance of winning Game 6 against LeBron James, and that is Andre Iguodala has to do better. There, I said it. I've been saying for 8 months now that Andre Iguodala, while he's a member of the Miami Heat, he's really in a mental state of golf. That is all Andre Iguodala is thinking about at this point, is when's his next round of golf? Does he have enough Pro Vs in the bag to get through a round? Like, he's not thinking about basketball. He played 20 minutes in Game 5. He scored a whopping 0 points. That is not going to cut it. If Andre Iguodala doesn't score at least 10 points in this Game 6, Miami doesn't have a chance at beating the Lakers. All right. So thanks so much for tuning in to the very first episode ever of the Daily Disturbance. I am Dave DeBob. Remember to leave us some comments if you're watching this on YouTube. Check out our Twitter account at Mighty Rip, and also our big website at mighty.rip. For the Daily Disturbance, I am Dave DeBaugh, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports day.